You have no idea. I'm so fucking tired right now. Like, I literally just went through almost 25 minutes of video giving a story. And peace, fam. I'm D. You are at Divination with D. If you are new here, welcome. If you are returning, thank you for coming back. I'm so disgusted right now. I accidentally hit my phone and was not able to hit the record button to hit it off. And so the video that I just did not even take. And I'm just tired. I was trying to, give an example of how you can tell how the physical world will use things in the spiritual world to let you know what is going on around you, like with yourself. And basically was using an example of my plants. So let me go through this one more time, again, a little quicker. I've grown up, around my grandpa, who used to always have me in the garden, planting, doing things. Generally really, really good when it comes to keeping plants alive and having them thrive. Never had a problem with keeping plants and having them grow. However, when my kids were older, looking at a situation with my kids, especially my daughter, with them staying with me after living with their father, coming and staying with me, back with me, I noticed that the plants in my house, certain plants were dying. Now, at the time, I lived in a 2-bedroom, and it primarily was me and my youngest son. He had his own room, and I had a room. But my daughter occupied the living room space, and I felt like there was a lot of contention there between the two of us, and I really did not trust her. Really, really strained situation that I was dealing with her, because I just felt like there was too many times that she would always lie and not be honest. Anyhow, she would always make fun and laugh and bring that to her brother, and they would pick, oh, mommy can't keep any plants alive, and that wasn't the case, because before they came back, I've always had my plants thrive. There's never been an issue with my plants, and I did not realize it spiritually, what was going on. It came to a point where my kids betrayed me, which led to me being homeless, and hurt me pretty bad. But I noticed how the plants that I had in her energy were not thriving. They were turning brown, turning yellow, just completely messing up. And, her whole thing is, oh, I don't know why you keep on getting plants, because you ain't no good with having plants. And I'm like, that is not true. That is so not true. I've always been good with plants. I had a whole fucking garden. So I'm pretty decent when it comes to having a bit of a green thumb. Never had any issues. But with her negative energy, these plants were absorbing the energy that was coming from her. And that is one of the things that you can tell as a telltale sign of something being directed towards you, whether it is negative energy, negative intentions from people, hexes or curses. Your plants will be an indication spiritually or physically of what's going on spiritually, and they absorb negative energy to protect you. Another example I will say of this is when I moved to Florida. The person that I was staying with, who was no longer my friend, the room that I was in, the plants that I have a dumb cane, had a dumb cane that I had for years before I moved in with her, and it was just beautiful. thriving really, really nice. And when I moved in with her, it literally started to go downhill and it died. She ended up taking it upon herself to repot it and prune it down and really fucked it up. And I was so pissed because I don't like other people touching my shit like that. It's like she just put more of her negative energy and intentions into that plant. You're thinking that you're trying to do something to benefit me, but that the plant is actually sensing everything that you have inside you. And it is pulling all that in, and it died. So I was able to actually get myself together and move out of there. But while I was there, I'm burning sage because, I do spiritual work, a lot of spiritual work. And needed to keep my space clear, my energy clear. And I noticed, every single day it was like we were arguing. And this is because she was being affected by the sage. Now, if you do not know what effects happen to people when you use sage or Palo Santo, but it was mostly the sage, when you are trying to clear your energy, check out my other video. I have another video on this channel, and I talk about the side effects that happen, the physical effects that happen within a person when they have negativity with them and you're burning sage. But we were arguing every day, and it was because she was being affected by the sage. She was being irritated. Her spirit was being irritated. So she was always coming back at me and finding some kind of reason to argue with me. And I knew what it was. And so I started to slow down on burning the sage because I'm like, damn, every single time I start to burn it, it lingers and we start arguing, and I just was not in for it. So one of the other things that I did, which I felt was necessary because of the amount of arguing, was I actually did some work around the house to take care of the situation with her, to soften things up with her. And I envisioned what I wanted to have happen. And that next day when she came in from work, she actually did what I envisioned. She apologized and actually stated that she spoke to someone and felt like she was being a bit harsh towards me in her speaking. And, my thought was, this is only going to last for so long. I need to hurry up and get my ass out of here, which I did. Kind of ended up having to move sooner than I was ready to. But again, I understand these signs that people display when sage is being burned and they have a negative spirit and it is affecting them. Now, let's fast forward to where I'm at right now. I'm not in my own place yet. It is coming. But I noticed over the last week how one of my dumb canes, the leaves started to turn yellow. And I'm like, okay, we have to take care of this. Pruned it. The other dumb cane, literally within a day's time, that one started to, two of the leaves, really big leaves, went from being green to yellow. And I had to prune those as well. And I'm like, this is not good. Now, this other plant that I've literally had for over 10 years, two of the leaves on the plant are turning yellow. And this plant never gives me any kind of problems. Easiest plant in the world to care for. I've gone weeks sometimes. 2 weeks possibly, I would say, maybe at the most, without watering this plant, and it would still be fine. Now I'm just like, I don't understand what is going on. I do, but I don't. And again, I'm looking at the situation of where I am. There is quite a bit of arguing that goes on around me. And some of the comments have been directed towards me. So I do understand that, again, my plants are absorbing negative energy. And I don't like it because I don't like the fact that my plants are being affected by the environment that I'm living in. It's very bothersome. It bothered me when my daughter was saying things about how I can't keep any plants and why do I always buy plants when I know they're just going to die on me. And it's like, that's really not the case. It's because it's protecting me from your negative ass energy. Because all my plants before, when you were a kid and when you were not in the house, were thriving just fine. It wasn't until you came back around that these plants start dying and turning yellow and brown and withering. So I know, and if you know the kind of person that you are and the care that you give, and you're always doing the same thing, you're very consistent about taking care of your plants, and they start acting weird, just out of nowhere, just start turning yellow and brown, and that's an indication that there might be some negative energy or intentions, hexes, or curses being tossed your way. So you want to make sure that you stay up on your spiritual baths, cleaning yourself, your chakras with some sea salt when you shower, spraying yourself down with some Florida water, just making sure that you are energetically clean and protected. I can't tell you enough how it bothers me. Just because I just don't like that. Now, some of the signs, if you don't know, like first of all, if you're going to be burning sage to cleanse the negative energy of your place, then that means that when you get done burning that sage, in every dark spot, every corner, whatever, you need to only open up one window to let that negative energy be released. And a lot of y'all are not doing that. You're just burning the sage and allowing the negative energy to just circulate in your space. It ain't going nowhere. It doesn't have anywhere to leave to go out. So you need to be doing that. And then ways of being able to tell. And I have another video about this to know the physical signs of when sage is actually working in your space to keep you protected and to push off or ward off negative energy. People around you that don't, that will be affected by it, one, they most likely do not like the smell of it. Two, they will have an adverse effect with it, possibly get like headaches, get nauseous, get dizzy, argue with you. This is all the stuff that most of the stuff that I went through when I was with the one girl, and how she would argue with me all the time because it was irritating her. And she didn't realize what it was. I realized what it was. And I had to slow up on cleansing my space, which also meant that I couldn't do as much work, spiritual work, as I normally would do, because I have to keep my space clean. But I just didn't feel like going through all the arguing all the time. So it's no different than where I am right now. I have to pick particular times when I do certain things and try to find other ways of keeping my space clean. But that is definitely one of the ways that you can tell. And then sometimes too, people would not even want to be in your space because they could be so negatively affected by you burning the sage. They will just not even be able to come inside your place. So be aware of that. But pay attention to things that are happening in the physical world that may seem weird, that don't normally happen, like your electronic devices glitching, phone, laptop, stuff like that, TV, radio, whatever, certain devices, electronic devices just glitching. It could be something spiritual going on, lights flickering, something spiritual that's going on. Different things like that don't normally happen. Even when it comes to certain animals or insects that you don't typically see that come out of nowhere. Being attracted to you, and it's just like, what in the world? Where did this come from? Certain things will be a tell sign, and you doing certain things to protect your energy really may be needed. So I know the job that I had when I was in New York, and I remember one particular evening I did I would go out into my car and I would meditate. And this one particular time I meditated talking to my grandfather who's passed. But my grandfather would always come to me in the form of either a cricket or a grasshopper. This time when he came to me, he came as a praying mantis. And he literally was on the door when I was coming back inside the house, the residential house that I worked. And it was a praying mantis on the door, and I took a picture of it. If I'm able to find it, then I'll post it, but I'll have to go through a whole lot to find that picture. But nonetheless, it was on the door, and I was like, this is crazy. So understanding symbolically the spiritual meaning of seeing a praying mantis, because I kind of looked at that as something unusual, because that is not the usual form that he comes to me, and he's usually either a cricket or a grasshopper, and most of the time a grasshopper. It symbolizes that the person is clairvoyant and has clairvoyant abilities, I will say it like that, and is also a master at meditation. And meditation is something that I've been doing since I've been a child, even though I didn't have the wording for it and understanding that that's what it was. But that was really interesting for me, like when I seen that, and I'm going back inside, and I'm just like, well, thank you, Grandpa, for showing your presence. Just as a sign, of showing that there is something there protecting me, watching over me. My grandmother, she would generally come to me as a dragonfly. Now, in New York, dragonflies, again, are not things that you would typically see. I don't know how many of you, wherever you are, have seen a dragonfly, but if you're in a place where that is all that you see, then it's not that rare. But when I was in New York, I would end up seeing dragonflies, and I knew that was my grandmother coming to me. And dragonflies symbolize great change and transformation. So it's also something that is like a reminder of like wealth coming towards you. There was an incident that I had where me and my daughter, we weren't speaking for a while, and prayed, and I was asking for some guidance, wanting to make sure that I was doing the right thing. And so we decided, when she reached out to me, that we would meet at a particular place, cafe. And when I got to the place and I stepped out of the car, I noticed a dragonfly hovering over the driver's side. And I was like, wow, it was just right there hovering. And I took that as a sign of my grandmother, listening to me, being with me, and understanding my situation. When I went inside the table that we sat at, I was able to look at the wall going towards the bathrooms. And on the wall, there was a picture of a dragonfly. So I thought that was very interesting. Again, I just felt like my grandmother's spirit was with me. You could get signs like that. However, also looking at the fact that, like I said, there will be physical signs that will come to you of spiritual things that are going on that you should start to pay attention to and be aware of, to let you know what's going on around you. One other thing too, if your plants are fine and you always do the same thing and out of nowhere they start to do things like that, just deteriorate, you might want to check your health, because it could be something that is health related, because again, they do absorb negative energy, but they're also there giving you these signs. Everything that happens in the physical world is not just by osmosis. It's not just something that just happens. You know what I'm saying? Because this is how we are all connected, and how we're all energy. If I remember, I will have to do a video on how plants actually operate, because they do have feelings. They vibrate at a certain frequency. They feel. They're very sensitive. There are sounds that come from them. There was this device that a person was able to connect onto the leaves of a particular tree. I don't know if it was an oak tree, but you could hear the melody that actually came from this tree, because of that was the vibrational frequency that it was on, and it was just absolutely beautiful. But everything, vibrates at a certain frequency, but there's a lot of stuff that, happens with plants that is a lot more deeper than most people actually believe, even when it comes to how they communicate. Like, one of the ways that they do that is like through their roots. So I don't want to get into it right now, because this video is already like quite long, but the physical world, through different things, will show signs of spiritual things that are happening with us, to give us signs, to show us what is going on. We just have to pay attention to those things. This is one of the reasons why I feel like when you look in the Bible, in the book of Solomon, why they said that he was one of the wisest men, so-called, in the world, but how he talked about how he would study nature, because there was a lot of nature vibrates at a different frequency than we do as humans, and there's a lot of things that you can learn by observing things in nature that can actually help us as humans that vibrate at a different frequency. It's just a matter of opening up our eyes and paying attention. Just like people know that whenever there's a strong storm brewing about to come, like we're in hurricane season right now, it's going to be oddly quiet, because you're not going to hear a bunch of sounds from the bugs outside. You're not going to possibly may not even see any birds. Like, they leave. In every movie that you watch that has some kind of destruction that comes upon the land to a certain place, you notice that everything in nature, they run, they leave. They're trying to get as far away from that disaster when it comes as possible. Animals are the first ones that feel the vibrational frequency of stuff. And that's why it's important to study nature, pay attention to nature, spend more time out in nature, and allow yourself to become more attuned to the way that nature talks, so that when things like this end up happening, you have to take a look at what is going on in your life, what is going on around you, and not just chuck it up as, oh, this is just happening, just because, and that there's no reason behind it. There is always a spiritual reason behind it. So I'm not going to make this any longer than what it is, what I was intending. But hopefully you guys were able to glean something from this. And if so, I don't know who's going to do it, but leave me a heart emoji. Let me know that my efforts have not been in vain. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And I will talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.